Well, joining us now, a very special guest, Bera is one of the foremost non-resident Indians, Americans who've done incredibly well in politics. He is a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. He represents California since 2013. Mr. Bera, wonderful to speak to you once again. Thanks very much. Prime Minister Modi over here in the United States. I'm actually outside the venue where there's going to be this mega diaspora event. Modi has a huge connect with members of the Indian community in the United States of America. How important is that really in building trust between India and America?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important, and thank you for having me on. I was listening to the prior conversation. My parents immigrated from Gujarat in the 1950s, and when I was growing up, it was a very small community. But you look to where we are today: 5 members of Congress. You have the Democratic nominee for president. We're 1% of the population, 8%, 9% of all doctors, technology workers. So I think there is a deep connection between the diaspora and our cultural roots in India. And I think Prime Minister Modi understands that.
Mr. Bera, you would have taken a look at the bilateral agreement signed yesterday between India and the US. It just seems to me that in terms of deliverables, we've gone well beyond this being a talk shop. There's a serious effort at technology transfers, a serious effort at growing the economic relationship. It is substantive. It's not just about talking about change, it's actually about implementing it.
Very much so. I mean, I think there's a real opportunity, as we think about the technology sector, as we think about supply chain redundancy. India now is probably the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines. So there's a partnership in health, seeing this cancer moonshot. I think we can take Indian doctors and academics working with American academics to really solve some of the world's most daunting challenges. And again, I think that's a testimony. You see the achievements of the diaspora here in the United States. And, I think it's a natural progression of the relationship between the two countries.
Mr. Bera, now that I have you, I must ask you, it's election season now in the United States. Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. At the end of the last debate, it did appear that Kamala Harris was a little bit ahead. But if you look at Donald Trump's performance in the past, in the last elections, he sort of tends to make a real mark towards the end of the campaign itself. How do you see this election campaign in the U.S. going?
I think this is going to be a very close election. I know the vice president very well and her campaign team, and they're running extremely hard. They understand that, that she's running from behind and she has a lot of ground to make up in a short period of time. I think she's going to win, but obviously I'm biased. I think it is going to be a very close election, and the diaspora can make a big difference. If you think about Georgia, you have a vibrant Indian American community. Nevada, a vibrant Indian American community. Pennsylvania, a vibrant community. And in elections that might be decided by a few thousand votes, if the Indian American diaspora turns out and votes for Vice President Harris, that could be the difference.
Mr. Bera, in the last couple of days, we've seen the reemergence of the Pannoon issue, as it were. But there is no mention of that in the bilateral agreement between both sides. Do you believe that, as far as the relationship is concerned, it's not something that really stops the process of change and progress?
No, I'd agree with that. I also, the other areas that we've been talking a lot to the Indians about, and I'm sure it's coming up with the Quad, is the Indian Ocean region, making sure, we're seeing the challenges in the South China Sea. We want to make sure that we keep the maritime security in the Indian Ocean secure, and India is a big partner in that as well. So again, I think this was a very timely Quad meeting. As President Biden wraps up his administration, and I think the momentum will continue forward regardless of who's in the White House.
And a final question to you, the fact that we had Prime Minister Modi visit Joe Biden at his house, a personal invite over there. In fact, I was outside his residence yesterday reporting live. It just seems to me that there's been this personal connect between the two leaders, which has really developed. And I think it's important to once again sort of stress that when it comes to the India-US relationship, it's bipartisan. Prime Minister Modi's had a great equation with Donald Trump. He's had a great equation with Joe Biden as well.
Absolutely. And again, the relationship with President Biden goes all the way back to when he was Senator Biden, during the U.S. civil nuclear deal with India. At that time, Senator Biden was instrumental. When he was Vice President Biden, he talked about the U.S.-India partnership being one of the most pivotal of the 21st century, and he's delivered on that as president. And again, you saw President Trump visit India as well. So this is a nonpartisan relationship. I think we Democrats and Republicans recognize the importance of the U.S.-India relationship.
All right, Mr. Bera, thank you very much for being with us. And thanks for spending some time with us right here on NDTV.